In today's lab, we're going to explore projectiles at an angle. We're going to use two angles. We're going to use a 40-degree angle and a 70-degree angle. You'll need to take some of our white paper and make a background. There won't be enough places in the classroom for everybody to do this, so some of you will need to do this in the hallway. And as you've figured out, you can take the privacy screens out to help catch the projectiles. You'll pair up on this. There'll be two groups with each projectile launcher, so we have plenty of projectile launchers for that. You will fire the projectile launcher on the second setting. That's slow enough you should be able to see it. You're going to measure two things. You probably do a practice fire once or twice to get an idea of how high it's going to go and where it's going to be. And then you'll need to stack some books, which I don't have here. So we want to know where it lands when it's at the same level as the muzzle. So I should have some books stacked over here, but if I fire once or twice, I find out when it's going to be, I stack some books, so now I have that height. You're going to measure two things. One group will measure the height that it goes. Okay? You can set up, once you figure out where it's going, you can set up a meter stick and measure that as best you can so you can get closer if you're measuring the height. The other group, and from that height, you're going to calculate the vertical muzzle velocity. And all this will be in your instructions. So one group measures the height from the muzzle velocity. In fact, if you want to take your boards, like we did in our previous lab, if you want to take your boards and set up a board here at that height, you may do that. You don't have to. And then it might make it easier to measure the exact height. Otherwise, you need to measure to here and subtract that from your total height. Either way is fine. So you will measure your height, and from that you can calculate your vertical muzzle velocity. The other group will measure two things. You'll measure your distance. It goes this way. It has to be the distance at this level. Okay? Not where it hits the floor. The distance horizontally from the muzzle where it leaves the muzzle. You measure that distance and you measure the time. From those two things you can find the horizontal muzzle velocity. Then the two groups come together and you combine with the vertical muzzle velocity and the horizontal muzzle velocity. You should be able to find out the straight line muzzle velocity, the initial velocity, and the angle. Of course, you already know the angle, but then you can calculate it and see how close your measurements are. Then in the instructions, it'll tell you what kind of error analysis and any other details I want you to do. But that's the basic idea. Then you'll switch it. Each group will switch, and then you do 70 degrees. So everybody will do all of these things. This will give us some good practice and hopefully give us a physical, visual example of the kind of problems we've been working where we know the angle or we don't know the angle, and we calculate vertical muzzle velocity and horizontal muzzle velocity and how that compares to straight line muzzle velocity. Good luck.